Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So in today's video, we'll be going over my November TBR, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I was actually having a hard time trying to nail down which books I wanted to read for this month, just because I read so many horror and thriller books for the month of October that I honestly just wanted to mood read and read nothing but romance. But when I was really sitting down and like figuring out what books I wanted to read for November, I realized that I did have books that I needed to read for content purposes, but also books that I needed to read or wanted to read because the publishers sent ARCs to me for November releases. So once I figured that out, I felt like the rest of the books fell into place, which made it easier for me. So I feel like this TBR is just going to be a mishmash of random books because I have nonfiction as well as coming of age stories as well as romance and even some fantasy, guys. I know, fantasy, who is she? I have no idea. I don't know what this means for me. I don't know what era I'm about to enter in, but I do have some fantasy on this list and I'm not mad at it. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with the physical books first because I only have a few here, and then the rest of the books I'm just going to have to pop up a picture on the screen over here because I don't have them yet, or I plan on reading them on my iPad. So the first book that I have here was actually an ARC that was sent to me by the publisher, and the book that I'm talking about is Jasmine Zuma Needs a Win by Suzanne Azim Boyer. And like I said, this was sent to me by the publisher. This was sent to me by St. Martin's Press. So thank you so much, St. Martin's Press, for sending this my way. But I'm really excited about this story, you guys, because it just seems like it's going to be a really hard-hitting coming-of-age story. And you guys know, if you've been following my channel for a while, that I love a good coming-of-age story. I just love when people have to discover themselves and figure out what they like and what they don't like, because it's something that every human being, I feel like, can relate to. So that's why I just really like these stories. But this one just sounds like it's going to be very interesting and unique and different, not only because of the time period that this is set in, but because of the events surrounding this character and what they have to go through in this story. So I'm actually just going to read the synopsis on the back here, since this is an ARC and it doesn't come out until November 1st. But on the back here it says, it's 1979 and Jasmine Zuma is ready to get the heck out of her stale Southern California suburb and into her dream school, NYU, where she'll major in journalism and cover New York City's exploding music scene. There's just one teeny problem. Due to a deadline snafu, she maybe said she was senior class president-elect on her application before the election takes place. But honestly, she's running against Gerald Thomas, a rigid rule follower whose platform includes reinstating a dress code. There's no way she can lose, and she better not, or NYU will rescind her application. But then, an international incident turns the election upside down. A group of students in Iran, fed up with the US's interference in Iranian politics, takes the American embassy in Tehran, and the people within it hostage. And as the Iran hostage crisis dominates the nightly news, her opponent seizes the opportunity to stir up anti-Iranian sentiment at school and turn the electorate against her, with the help of her outspoken brother, who never stops talking about it. Now, as the white lie she told snowballs into an avalanche, Jasmine is stuck between claiming her heritage or hiding it, standing by her outspoken brother or turning her back on him, winning the election or abandoning her dreams for good. As you heard from the synopsis, this is definitely going to have a lot of important topics in it, and I have never really read that much about the American embassy hostage situation that took place in Iran. I know bits and pieces of it from my history classes, but I don't know anything super in-depth. So I'm really excited to dive into this book to really find out more about the events, but also just really seeing how Jasmine is going to tackle this situation. And also going back to regular high school drama, is she going to be able to become president of her class? Who knows? So yes, I'm really excited about this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get my review up on the actual pub date, which is on November 1st, but I'm still going to post about this book on that day regardless. Either way, make sure you follow me on Bookstagram so that way you can see my post about this book when it does come out. The next book that I have here is a rom-com, and it is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. So the only things that I really know about this story actually follows a woman named Karina, and Karina is, I think, like in her 30s, and she's not married or anything like that. Her family really wants her to get married, and I think her and her dad come up with this deal. If she ends up getting married by a certain deadline, he'll give her the family house because he's looking to sell the family house, and Karina doesn't want that to happen. And so now I think Karina is determined to get dating advice as well as just trying to find, you know, a husband essentially so she can save the family house. And she ends up calling into, I think, the Dr. Dill show to get advice. But when she calls into the show, she actually gets in an argument with the man who is like running the Dating Dr. Dill show, which is Dr. Burma, and they're obviously enemies now. But somehow throughout the story they end up crossing paths again, and they enter this fake relationship, which obviously ends up turning real, and you guys know how these rom-coms go. I feel like that wasn't the best synopsis, but I feel like you guys get the point. This book has been out for a while now, and I was going to read this book months ago, but I just kept pushing it off because there were other books that I wanted to get to. But I feel like November hopefully is finally the time that I'm going to dive into this book, because I actually did read the first couple of sentences, and Karina is very, very funny. So I want to get back into this and see if this is going to become another favorite rom-com of mine. As you guys can see by the cover, this is definitely inspired by the 10 Things I Hate About You movie promo, which is a movie that I love. So I'm assuming that this is going to have those vibes, as well as Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew vibes, because that's what 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this one, and I also can't wait to see how this certain explicit smutty scene plays out, because I've heard from a few people that there is a very explicit scene in here, and I'm not going to say what it is because I feel like it is kind of a spoiler. So if you want to know, just look up Goodreads reviews. I'm sure people have mentioned it, so I can't wait to see how this story unfolds. And the next book that I have here is a classic, and it is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So this is actually going to be a reread for me because I read The Picture of Dorian Gray last year in October, and I fell in love with this story. This is honestly my favorite classic of all time, and I just keep thinking about this story, and so I really wanted to plan a reread for this fall season, and I just think that November is going to be the time to do so. This is actually a special edition copy. This is the Signature Classics edition, and I'm obsessed with it. I actually showed this book in one of my older book haul videos, and shout out to Raven Haired Reader for showing this in one of her hauls, because that's how I found out about this edition. And it's actually really funny because Barnes & Noble now sells this. If you are interested in this edition, you can pick it up with ease. I had to buy this from a local bookstore in New York, which I'm not mad about at all because, you know, support local bookstores, but it was hard finding this copy. So I'm glad y'all have a bit more ease and accessibility to finding this edition. But I'm not going to get into the synopsis of The Picture of Dorian Gray. I feel like I've talked about it extensively on my channel, so definitely make sure you check out my older TBR videos as well as my wrap up. But yes, cannot wait to reread this book at some point. And the last physical book that I have here is a fantasy book, and it is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. And y'all, we're gonna have to talk about why I have this book and, you know, why I'm going to read it and all of that type of stuff. But before we get into it, this story actually follows a 16-year-old girl named Dika, and Dika lives in this village where they have this blood ceremony, and basically what they do is they will, I think, prick your skin to see if your blood runs red, and if your blood runs red, then that means that you're pure and that you're good to go and that you can basically stay in your village. But if your blood runs gold, then that technically means that you are impure and that your consequence for this could be death. And so Dika goes to this blood ceremony, and of course when she's pricked, her blood runs gold. So now Dika is very confused and doesn't understand what's going on, but before she can really ask any questions or try to get to the bottom of this woman actually tells Dika if she wants to save her own life, then she can go join this army of women who have gold blood and fight for the emperor. And so Dika ends up taking this woman's warning into consideration, and I think she ends up traveling to like the capital or wherever this emperor lives, and she ends up becoming a warrior in his army. And you obviously just follow Dika throughout this journey of, you know, grappling with the fact that her blood is gold, she is different from her peers, but also her grappling with the fact that she will never be accepted into the society and the world that she's always known. And so even though this book is definitely out of my comfort zone, I still found the plot and the premise very fascinating. And also this cover is just absolutely stunning. Like, I could not pass this up, and I've been eyeing the Gilded one since last year, but because I'm not a fantasy reader, I was like putting it off, and I was like, we'll see. If I'm still thinking about it in a couple of months or next year, then maybe I'll look into picking it up. And I'm still thinking about it, and so I decided to pick it up off of Pango Books. When I ordered this book, I actually also received the author's note, and I did take my time reading this, and Namina pretty much just goes into the process for writing this book, why she wrote it, and the reasons as to why she wrote it just sounds like it's going to be right up my alley, believe it or not. There are talks about, you know, the patriarchy and trying to dismantle it, as well as just what it means to be a young girl and a woman in general. And so I just really like this author's note. You can tell that this book is her baby, and that she probably spent so much time and so much energy and poured a lot of love into making this book. And I will be reading this book in an upcoming reading vlog, so definitely make sure you stay tuned for that. I am a little bit nervous because when I read the author's note, Namina did say that this book has a lot of violence and brutality brutality, because obviously these young girls are warriors, so there are going to be a lot of fighting scenes and again just violence overall. A little nervous about that, but I'm still going to push through and read this book because I'm really interested to see where the story goes. And the next book that I like to read for the month of November is The Goal by Elle Kennedy. So I have said in other videos that I am slowly working my way through the off-campus series. It took me a while to get to this book, which is the last book in the off-campus series technically, like in the original one, because there is another book that Elle Kennedy came out with recently to really like round out this series, and it's called The Legacy. But like I said, that just came out. And so this series follows a group of hockey players and their romances throughout their college years. So The Goal follows one of those hockey players named Tucker, and it also follows his love interest Sabrina. And Tucker is a sweet, charming Southern guy, and his love interest Sabrina is like very like determined and ambitious, and they couldn't really be any more different. They end up crossing paths one night and sparks start to fly, and the story takes off from there. I don't want to get into the full synopsis because I feel like it does spoil a little bit of what happens, so I don't really want to tell you guys. If you want to know the full synopsis, definitely make sure you go on Goodreads or just look it up on your own time. I cannot wait to finish this book because I actually started it in October, but because I was reading all of these spooky and creepy books, I had to put it on the back burner. But now that I'm going to be reading a little bit more romance in November, I decided to pick this book back up, and I can't wait to get further into it because I was really enjoying it. And I love Tucker already. He is truly one of the best, I think, out of the entire off-campus series. All I know is that Tucker is great, Garrett is great, and John Logan is great. Dean, we don't know him, we don't acknowledge him. Once I finish this book, I will be reading the last book in the series, which is called The Legacy, and The Legacy is basically just a where are they now book. And I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about that one. A lot of people either really loved it or really hated it or felt like it wasn't necessary. Y'all know I'm the queen of epilogues, so I feel like that book is really just going to be an extended one, and I'm here for it. And the next two books that I plan on reading are actually books that I selected for Nonfiction November. Nonfiction November is a readathon that is hosted by Olive from A Book Olive here on YouTube. I will leave Olive's channel as well as her announcement video linked down below just in case you want more information, but you can basically turn this readathon into anything that you want. If you want to read nothing but nonfiction for the month of November, you can. If you want to only read one book, you can. It's really up to you. The goal is just for you to read a nonfiction book during the month of November. And I'm trying to get back into nonfiction because I have fallen off really hard. I read a nonfiction sprinkled in here and there, but not as much as I was, and I'm really like disappointed by that. I'm really hoping that this readathon will help me get back into it and make me pick up a nonfiction book at least once a month when it comes to my TBR. So the first nonfiction book that I'm hoping to get to in the month of November is It's Not TV: The Spectacular Rise, Revolution, and Future of HBO by Felix Gillette and John Coblin. So I feel like this book sounds really random. That's because it is. I really love history, and I also love learning new things and learning how things even came to be. So this book is about how HBO even came to fruition and how it became the heavy hitter that it is when it comes to the TV, film, and entertainment industry. And I have mad respect for HBO and what they've done to revolutionize the TV, film, and entertainment industry. And I just feel like they've always been cutting edge, very innovative, and visionaries, to be honest, because we got shows like Sex and the City, which was ahead of its time and also just unheard of during its time when it came out. We also got The Wire, which is another great show. We got Game of Thrones, Euphoria, which is one of my favorite shows. We also got The Sopranos, I'm pretty sure, Sex Lives of College Girls, which is another one of my favorite shows. So they just have a plethora of shows that I feel like everybody and anybody can find interest in, and I just really respect that. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one because I just can't wait to learn more about like their history and also just learning about the challenges that they had to face in the very beginning to get to where they got to today. And I also just think that this book is very timely considering the fact that HBO Max had that whole like issue this past summer with them getting rid of certain shows and getting bought out by another company or teaming up with another company. So yeah, I cannot wait to read this book. And the last book that I have here that I hope to read in the month of November, especially for Nonfiction November, is From Hollywood with Love: The Rise and Fall and Rise Again of the Romantic Comedy by Scott Meslow. This is a book that I actually featured in my most anticipated books of the year video. I will leave that linked up above in the card somewhere, but I am finally, hopefully, getting around to reading this one because you guys know I love love. I'm a hopeless romantic and I love romance and rom-coms. So a nonfiction book about rom-coms and the genre itself, right up my alley. And the little blurb right here says, an in-depth celebration of the romantic comedy's modern golden era and its role in our culture, tracking the genre from its heyday in the 80s and the 90s its unfortunate decline in the early 2000s, and its explosive resurgence in the age of streaming. As you heard from that little blurb, it's really just going to go into that history of rom-coms and I guess where it's headed from here. So another book that I cannot wait to get to. I love that this book is like speaking directly to me. I feel like this is the niche content that I need, and that's why I really love nonfiction, because you can always find a book that appeals to your needs. You just have to look for them. And this is one that I randomly came across when I was scrolling through like nonfiction releases for 2022, and once I saw this cover and the title, I was like, be still my heart. Thank you so much, Scott Meslow, for going into detail about the romantic comedy genre and why it is superior. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I hope to read in the month of November. I feel like I have a solid list here, and I just feel really good about it. You know, I feel really good about this selection of books that I have. Now, am I going to get to all of them in the month of November? I feel like some of these books will be audiobooks, because I'm trying to incorporate audiobooks back into my reading plans because they are very convenient, and I just love like the ease of audiobooks, to be honest. So I feel like some of these books will be audiobooks, but I'm just not sure which ones yet. Maybe the nonfiction reads, but we will see. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me and my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!